Hello, good evening, everybody. You guys all ready to have some fun? Listen to a great speaker? Yeah, okay. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining for us for The Current. I am Stephanie Petrosky, Interim Regional Assistant Chief Academic Officer. They somehow let that fit on the slide down there. The Current is a partnership of Riverwise and Penn State Beaver. It serves to bring together community members who care about developing a sustainable vision for the county. Community members like yourselves who enjoy learning and thinking about paving a way for a stronger future. Our dream for tonight is to generate intentional conversations about the role of art in conserving our biodiversity and how we can engage in that practice ourselves as we work to understand the biodiversity in our lives and how to advance it. With that, I will hand it over to Daniel Rossi-Keene, Executive Director of Riverwise.
Good evening. Appreciate you all being here and your patience on the front end as we ironed out a couple minor technical difficulties. As Stephanie said, my name is Daniel Rossi-Keene. I'm the Executive Director of an organization called Riverwise. We are a Beaver County organization that exists to organize community voice and power so that residents like you can exercise agency over the future of the communities that you call home. We have been super excited and honored to partner with Penn State Beaver for the last several years now on this series called The Current. It's been a really fun opportunity to have a partnership between a nonprofit organization and an anchor academic institution. And tonight is very much the fruit of several years of planning on a whole different range of topics, which we'll talk about in just a second. I have a couple introductory words just to orient you to this lecture series, and then I'll quickly be quiet and get to the main event here. When we set out 3 years ago to launch The Current, we had some goals that we've tried to make clear and share at every one of these gatherings. So the series goals for The Current is to present a series of conversations at the intersection of local history, community concerns, and contemporary society. So there's a very intentional decision-making process at the heart of all of these talks to have a conversation about a whole bunch of things and the relationship between those things. And so we've had a wide range of conversations across a wide range of topics, and that's very intentional. We think it's critical for the health and future of our communities. This series really has attempted to provide a shared public dialogue around the ideas that are shaping our region. It also seeks to describe and create a shared culture. At Riverwise and certainly at Penn State Beaver, we're convinced that the ways we talk about ourselves and the dialogue that we perform to, with, and among one another shapes who we become and shapes the possibilities within the life of our community. And so the thinking is, if we can think more widely, if we can think more thoughtfully, if we can think more creatively about what's going on in our communities and the broader world around us, we can actually bring about different sorts of things in the life of our community. And so we're connecting the way we think and talk to the possibilities and options all around us every day as citizens in this place we call home here in Beaver County. And we're hopeful that these conversations can provoke, can encourage, can lead, can guide all of that shared community making and all of that shared conversation about our future. If you haven't been at a previous edition of The Current, I just want to give you a very brief recap of where we've come from. This is actually the seventh conversation in a series going all the way back to March 23rd. Many of you may recognize Bill Flanagan, sort of a bulwark of Pittsburgh media. He came and talked to us about our regional history and our economic future. We then had a Penn State faculty member, one of their own, Robin Bauer, talk about the value of the humanities and the role of the humanities in shaping our lives and our communities. Kevin Schreck came and introduced his film about the value of creativity and persistence over time, and we screened that together and had a fascinating conversation there. Came back to another Penn State faculty in autumn, Dr. Sabo, and Jeff Karwoski talking about trees, ecology, the connection between living things, living systems, and community systems. Ashu Kumar, again, another Penn State faculty member, along with Lou Velati from the Beaver County Corporation for Economic Development, led us in a conversation about the economic future and the process of building a local regional economy here in Beaver County. And then in April of 2024, our most recent edition of The Current, we actually went out of Penn State, off of Penn State, went into the community, screened a short documentary film about the East Palestine tragedy, what's it called? The train derailment that happened a couple of years ago, and then had a conversation with residents who had been affected by that tragedy who were featured in the short film. So you ought to be hearing a bunch of different topics, a bunch of different conversations, but all centering around the things that are shaping our community, shaping our shared time and life together. And that, again, is the intent of The Current. Stay tuned for more to come. We're not formally ready to announce our next installment, but they will be coming. One will be coming, and we will certainly keep you appraised of that. We hope that this continues to be an ongoing series of conversations for our community and the region. All right, so that's a brief orientation to The Current as a series. Let me briefly introduce you to our speaker tonight. I told George earlier today, he's a pretty humble guy. You spend a minute or two with him and you learn something interesting. You spend 3 minutes or 5 minutes and you learn some really interesting things. You spend an hour with him and you're like, man, what hasn't this guy done? Fascinating guy. George has the feel of a close friend the minute you meet him. And I say that as a compliment and as a thank you. He has just immediately kind of woven himself into the Beaver County story and just been such a gracious participant in this process. And so, George, I thank you for that. From a professional standpoint, George is a National Geographic explorer, or a photographer rather, for the National Geographic Explorer. He's also a National Geographic photo camp instructor. And as he explains it, he uses his camera to advocate for wildlife conservation. George is doing something that this series is trying to provoke, using his skills, his opportunities, his capacities to advocate for a kind of future for communities that he wants to bring about. His work showcases natural history and conservation efforts, highlighting human interests and wildlife narratives worldwide. Now, as part of that work, George has done a crazy wide range of things that I don't begin to know and understand. Traveled 6 of the 7 continents. Actually, 48 hours ago was in South Africa and flew direct from South Africa. Well, not direct. Lots of different legs of the journey. But from South Africa right to us here in Pittsburgh. Has photographed some of the most interesting, crazy, big, scary, beautiful animals you could ever imagine. He'll talk about all those things. I also learned today that he has photographed Prince. Any of you heard of Prince? Beyonce. This guy's, he's done it all. And he has used his camera to change communities that he's connected to. I'm sure there's a lot more I could tell you. I want to let George do that. We are so grateful and thankful for you being here tonight, George. If you would so kindly come up and share some of your story with us. We will follow George's formal presentation with a Q&A session. So be teeing up questions that you have about lions, tigers, and bears, and so forth. And we will look forward to that part of the presentation as well. Let's give a warm welcome to George McKenzie.
I think I have this, and you have that.
Yeah. Awesome. Let me know when you want to go to the next one.
Thank you. Oh, wow, there's a really shiny light there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I heard some boys and girls in here. Thank you for spending, I think today's Wednesday, your Wednesday evening with me. Pardon me, I am little less than 20 hours removed from traveling from South Africa to be here. My name is George McKenzie Jr., and I am a wildlife photographer from probably the place that you would not expect wildlife photographers to be from. I'm from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. My journey is going to be based on perseverance and hard work, and you're gonna hear a little insight into it, and it's literally a really kind of, yeah, there we go. Photography saved my life, changed my life. And that's my testament. And next slide, please. So, I specialize in camera trap photography. So this is the image you're seeing right now. And this is a young female panther, Florida panther. I think she's one of, if I'm not mistaken, 175 left in the wild. Next image, please. The picture on the left is what I used to do and where the kind of things I used to be into. The picture on the right is the Marcy housing projects, which I grew up down the block from. So like I said, a wildlife photographer from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. So what you guys see on the right was my form of a green space. And I will tell you this, I was probably the only person in my Uber driver's schedule yesterday afternoon when I landed, that started recording out the window, because now I live in Central Florida and everything is flat. And we don't have seasons anymore. It's either hot or hotter. That's it. So to come here, the cold hit me, I was like, woo. And then I started recording on the way from the airport. And the Uber driver's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I don't see seasons anymore. I don't have hills anywhere. So when I come here, everything is brand new and fascinating to me. Next slide, please. I started off my photography journey by photographing some of my favorite rappers. I got into photography, though, because I had a light bulb moment. My light bulb moment was at a club. I saw who I thought was the most beautiful young lady at the time. And once I worked up enough courage, like most of the young men in here do, to go talk to her, she said, sure, I'll give you a dance. And worked up some more courage, shot my shot, and she said, relax, see me at the end, I'll give you my number. As I'm waiting for her at the end of the night, I noticed all the women who I thought were pretty were hugging and kissing the event photographer. I was like, wait, women like photography? So that's how I got into photography. I wish I could tell you some crazy story about my father gave me a camera when I was 5 and I was like set ever since. No. Literally, the only reason I shower, shave, and all this other stuff is because my girlfriend would kick my butt if I didn't do that. Next slide, please. And I wanted to date models and photograph rappers. So this is some of my portfolio. Next slide, please. As you can see, I have a thing for photographing what I consider beautiful women. Next slide, please. And got to meet some of my favorite designers, be in some really interesting and crazy rooms. Next slide, please. And I got to photograph some of my favorite rappers. The person that you're seeing standing in front of you right now didn't exist until I met that young lady. She forced me to not be awkward, not be shy, and to get out of my shell and be more engaging and be not scared of standing in front of a room of a bunch of strangers and be vulnerable and tell my story. Next slide, please. I spent my formative years as a photographer, photographing and traveling the world, taking pictures of rappers and models. And before I got into conservation, next slide please, I worked with a few brands, and I was lucky enough to be able to have such a unique experience. Next slide please. I got to photograph the late great Kobe Bryant before he passed away, his final All-Star game in Toronto. That was one of those, I can't believe I'm doing this kind of experiences. And like my opening slide said, photography changed my life, and it saved my life, because I'll be honest, I was a little knucklehead growing up. Growing up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, at 16, 17, I would go to school with a gun in my backpack. So that's to just give you some context of where I started to where I am. Next slide, please. This is me with my mentor, Charlie Hamilton James. Charlie is the guy who changed my life, and I'm gonna use some language that people might not be comfortable with, in the sense that Charlie didn't come into my life as a white savior. Charlie came into my life as a person allowing me to dream this crazy dream. I met Charlie when I was working at a camera store called Adorama in New York City. And this guy walks in with a Leica, a 40,000 Leica around his neck, and he's like trying to haggle with me for $374. What he doesn't know that I know is that the only competition that Adorama has is B&H. It's a Friday, it's the Shabbats, so it's no go, bro. Like, I'm your only deal in town. So we got to talking, and I'm like, you have my yearly salary around your neck. What do you do? He's like, I'm a wildlife photographer for Nat Geo. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, I meet a bunch of you guys every day, and you go to Africa on like the weekend, you come back, and you find out you're like a brain surgeon. You just have the funds to like go to Africa and come back on the weekend. You're a wildlife photographer. No. Charlie was the real deal, and I did what everyone does to Nat Geo photographers. I bugged him consistently. Like, I don't think you guys know what consistently is. Every time he shared a photo, he's like, yo, can I be your assistant? He's like, George, I'm sitting in a canoe. My wife is paddling. I think she's gonna leave me because she's freezing, and I'm trying to photograph otters. You sure you wanna do this? I'm like, yeah, dude. I don't care what it is. I just wanna do it. And this is how Charlie's and I relationship started. Next slide, please. Charlie had to photograph the smartest birds in New York City. And yes, that is the pigeon. And for all of you who don't believe me, at the end of this, I'll be more than happy to show you guys my pigeon tattoo, because they're my spark bird. And that's what got me interested in conservation. Charlie took a subject that I was that kid in the picture most of my life. I would walk into a group of pigeons, stand there, let them gather, and then to scare them. All right? When I started driving, I would gun it for pigeons, because you could never really hit a pigeon. They'll always get out of the way. Now I'm the old guy that you see me in the parks, I'll get the extra bagel from the coffee truck, and I'll sit there and I feed the pigeons, because this story changed my perception of my surroundings. Next slide, please. This is how I represent pigeons these days. They are the smartest birds in all of New York City. They're monogamous, they're married, they're together until one dies. The reason you never see a baby pigeon is because mom and dad they protect their child until they're old enough to be out there. Next slide, please. Then we did my favorite subject, rats. So I know a lot about pigeons, rats, and roaches because I grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And you can only photograph what you have access to. So down on the left is a storm drain. For those of you who have braved going to New York City, every corner has one. And that's what a litter of rats looks like at 2 in the morning, right off of Wall Street, just living their best life. 2 rats can give you 1 million rats in about 2 years, because the male can achieve ejaculation 28 times in a 24-hour period, and she can go 2 weeks after she gives birth, she can get pregnant again. So, welcome to my knowledge base. It's as wide as the Amazon River, as thin as a 1-inch sheet of rice. So, please don't ask me any crazy questions. Next slide, please. All of these photos that you're looking at were done over a 9-week period in New York City. And if you look at the top left of the picture, it looks like a red light, but it's actually a flash that casts that red shadow on the ground. So this is all done via camera trapping in the city at 2 in the morning. We did have the luxury of having a homeless guy that would hang out next to us at about 2:30 to 2:45 every morning. He would do what the male rats do. So that was always fun and something I could never unsee or unhear. Next slide, please. These rats here at this location, this is right outside of 99 Wall Street. This is a high-end condo that charges about $3,500 for a studio. This is their backyard. And the rats that basically lived in their building would come out. On the right is their trash that they would dump from their residence every night. They would come dump it, and these guys would come up and enjoy it. Next slide, please. Photography has taken me to a lot of amazing places, from a guy that started off in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I've been to Paris, been to London, and as you can see, I have a thing for the Eiffel Tower. The last time I was in Paris was a little less than 24 hours ago, and I promised myself I would never go again if I can. But that's for a whole nother talk that I'm going to do at some point. Next slide, please. Photography has also taken me to the Arctic Circle, where I've been able to run with these dogs and camp out there for 5 days, 4 nights, going from Sweden to the fjords of Norway and back. And it was one of the most life-changing experiences I've ever had, because what people don't understand is, dude, I got sunburned I was like a lobster after that thing, just peeling everywhere. You don't think you could get sunburned? Try going into the Arctic for a few days, and I swear, if I had this gentleman's pigmentation, I'd look like a lobster coming back. Next slide, please. Now, this is where I'm at. I'm in Central Florida, and I do photography This is actually some scenes. I don't know if any of you have gotten the opportunity to see Path of the Panther. We just won an Emmy Award last season for the movie that we did. And full, complete disclosure, I have not watched the final cut because I worked on the entire thing, and I don't want to see another scene that I feel I messed up on film. So this is me in the Everglades at night, and you can tell I am not from down there because I'm wearing a rain jacket. What I found out when I moved to the Everglades is that mosquitoes like people with O positive blood. And the only thing that would ever stop the mosquitoes is wearing a rain jacket. So yes, you sweat, you lose a few pounds, but you don't get bitten. And this is my reality. Next slide, please. I got into camera trap photography because it was a way for me to really refine my skills and my ability and document these animals in their natural habitat. So there's Bobcat, who I can't tell you how many times this particular Bobcat peed on my lens. Like every week it would come and it's like, come on, bro. Like, I'm just trying to get a picture, but he's very territorial and he loved to mark places. Next slide, please. This is yes, Florida does have black bears. So if you didn't know that, welcome to my part of Florida. They're big, they're very risk averse though, so they'll be the first ones to run away from you than to ever act threatening towards you. Because one of the things that wildlife has learned in my expertise and my time spent with them is that they always lose. So if a bear attacks you or even bluff charges you, you call the feds, the bear's removed. So they really work hard at avoiding human conflict. Next slide, please. And these all these images that you are all looking at, from the rats to this, these are all done with camera traps. So this is a young mother scratching, rubbing on a rub tree, leaving her scent to let the males know that she's basically open to having children again because she has these young and she's ready to go again. Next slide, please. On the left, what you're looking at is a young mother teaching her cub how to mark a rub tree. On the right, that's a big old male letting the neighborhood know that he's also available. If anybody wants to meet him, he'll be around the bend. Next slide, please. Now you're looking at me as a Nat Geo explorer hanging out with my friends, talking about projects. And on the right, I do that once a year, I promise you. That's it. The only time I'm putting on a tux is to schmooze, talk, and like stand in front of like a spaceship. Yeah. Next slide, please. This is the Milky Way. The only other place I've seen the Milky Way prior to moving to Central Florida was in New Zealand. And with me saying that, I want to leave you with some takeaways from my journey. Life is based on persistence. Where you start does not determine where you end up. To the young people that are here in the audience, you have your entire lives ahead of you. I encourage you to go for it, take as many risks as possible, fail as many times as possible, everything I've ever wanted has been on the other side of my fears. The scariest thing I ever did in my life was leaving everything I knew in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and moving to the middle of nowhere, Florida. And it literally changed everything for me. I stand here before you as a testament to what facing your fears and living your dreams can amount to. And next slide, please. I think that's it. So that's my talk. I know it's a little fast. However, I want you guys to ask me any questions you have. I kind of sped through that, if I'm not mistaken. And I want, please ask questions, because you are all my context for Pittsburgh right now. I've never been to Pittsburgh before. I was telling Daniel, it was, when I was younger, it was Mario Lemieux crushing the Rangers. It's Big Ben winning Super Bowls before Eli. I got to the airport and I'm like, wow, this place it's not as big as I thought it was. However, when I drove past the parking lot, I was like, holy smoke, it's half the town, like out of town. Like I didn't know people could park that many cars at the airport. So please ask me questions. I will answer everything, and the floor is yours.
George, thank you. We're spread out, so this might be a little clunky, but we'll make it work. So I have a microphone. If you have a question, wave at me.
This young man in the front.
And we'll make the rounds. Say your name before you get started, and maybe what community you're from, too.
My name is Mark. I'm from a long way away too. I'm from Australia originally, but living here in Pittsburgh now. Really appreciate the information, mostly. Where's your next assignment? Where are you headed next?
Where I'm heading next, I am going to go on like a 6-month journey around Wild Florida and document some of the most interesting things that I've seen. So there's a meteor lake in the middle of the Everglades that I want to go to, and I'm trying to convince my girlfriend to let me get a horse so I could ride into. Yes, Mark, it's kind of crazy, but that's my next adventure. And I texted her earlier. Tell her I'm coming home, and let's talk about the horse.
I thought I was crazy trying to convince my wife to buy a bass boat, but a horse, that's a whole nother level, man. All right, other questions? I'll kind of work way around the room here.
Hi, my name is Julie. I'm from a little community called Enon Valley, right next to East Palestine.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. Can you just explain the camera trap, like how that works?
So my camera traps are basically full-frame cameras set into a box that has, I also install a sensor, a light, a few lights, and I let the animal, it's basically considered the biggest selfie box you've ever seen. Have like a 50 megapixel camera in there to really get the detail out. My lights are all set purposefully to be able to highlight them at night. And it's not the little trail cams that you see. I use my trail cams to scout, to monitor animal movement and figure out how they're moving and when they're moving. So that's what my camera traps are.
George, I'm going to throw a question in here. So we have a lot of aspiring photographers present. Mm-hmm. As you start to talk about cameras and plural, right? Mm-hmm. 50 megapixel.
Yeah.
Megawatt, that's different. Like I'm imagining, I'm seeing money signs. I'm thinking of like a freelance, early stage photographer who feels like they need all of this equipment to get rolling. So I guess I have two questions. One, like, where you are in your journey at this point, like, did you have to buy all of that equipment, or do the folks who hire you do that? And secondly, like, what would you say to an early stage photographer who feels like that's an impediment to doing their work?
So to answer your question, the first one is everyone who's ever hired me has contributed to me purchasing that gear. Secondly, you don't. I do a very specialized thing, and those are the tools that I play with. However, you don't need to buy the latest and greatest. You just need to start. And as you grow in your career, you'll accumulate a bunch of things. For the people that are professionals here, there's like these guys who have always been like, yeah, we get it. They know the deal, you know? You have to start somewhere. And you can only start where you can start. You don't need to overextend yourself, put yourself into debt, or anything to start this career. What you just need to do is start. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Other questions? Is this coming from Jeff or from Forrest?
It's from the both of us. I'm Jeff, and I'm from Beaver County here. And so growing up in Bed-Stuy, so really is a hot spot for rappers coming out of there. Mm-hmm. You got a favorite rapper?
Yeah, I grew up down the block from him, Jay-Z. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, we like those housing projects that you saw in the beginning, those are the Marcy houses. I grew up literally down the block, and his success was something that allowed me to have this crazy dream. Like, if he could do it, I could do it, you know? And it's funny and hilarious because I've been able to photograph him a few times in my life. So it all kind of came full circle for me. And, you know, as a young man, I made a ton of stupid decisions. Like, you're listening to a guy that at 16 and 17, I would go to school with a gun in my backpack, right? And looking back, it was like, what the hell were you thinking, George? You know, but just living this lifestyle that I thought I wanted to live and be a part of until I almost lost my life. And that was kind of the turning point for me, where everything changed, and I went to that party and nothing was the same ever since.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
All right. I'll work my way around this way. We'll get to you sooner or later. I'm getting my steps in. There you go.
Thanks so much for the presentation. My name is Melissa, and I'm a wild horse photographer and have a nonprofit dedicated to wild horses out in Utah, but live here in Pennsylvania. So my question for you is, we do a lot of advocacy through photography to spread awareness about wild horses. So can you talk a little bit about, the advocacy and the conservation aspect of the photography that you do?
Yeah, I don't believe that conservation is only for the people that can afford to be conservationists. I believe that conservation is for everyone. And if you can't see yourself represented in the space, and not just as a black man, but somebody from an urban environment, does conservation only matter to the people that have the luxury of living out in wide open spaces? It's for everybody. We all live on this planet, and I don't know about any of you here, but I don't have enough money to move to Mars. So we have to protect what we have, and we have to get that younger generation involved some way, some shape, somehow, because I don't want my images to be the last remaining thing they've seen about wild spaces. So that's where my conservation efforts really come into play, is about making it more democratized for everybody to feel that they're part of the process. That's how I do it. And shout out to you for flying from Pittsburgh to Utah.
Thanks. You can see me about a horse too.
I'm trying to get a marsh tacky.
I've been
We can
using that
talk.
joke
We'll
for a
talk
long
later.
time with not nearly the results, so good work. All right, other questions? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for coming. And my name's Dean from the South Hills of Pittsburgh.
Hey, what's up, bro?
I had a question about the extreme environments that you've visited, and was there one that comes to mind that was pushing you to your limits, and you were like, "What the heck am I doing here?"
Yeah, that was the Arctic Circle. So what no one tells you is that those dogs like to run, and they tell you that you literally have to hold on and never let go. I lost a pair of AirPods out there. However, I came back, my forearms were 10 times stronger, unsore, and because the last thing that'll happen is you'll get to like your finish point and your dogs will run through and nobody will see you. So I learned how to sleep on the back of a sled while going through this journey. So literally it's kind of like, but I never once let go, hence why I'm still here. But that's the one place that really stood out to me. And I'll say South Africa last week is a second close, because I'll go from where I'm standing to where that MacBook is, and that was a male lion that kind of looked at me and really humbled me in knowing that I can be food if I decide to do something stupid like get out this vehicle. So those two environments really have left an imprint on my life. Like the lion who looked at me like I was food, and the Arctic Circle because I just, like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know, so those two really stood out for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question.
Would you mind talking a little bit about your work with youth, and also just how through youth or with anybody, like how photography or having a creative outlet can really change your life just on a soul level of going about the world?
I think we were talking about, so I'm a National Geographic photo camp instructor, and for me that means I get to travel to some of the most unique places in this beautiful country and teach children the art of storytelling through photography. I wish I had something like that when I was their age, and to be able to teach these young children and push them and see them grow within a 1 week period of time. Every mentee that I've ever had, I always tell them they can use me as a reference because I've been able to see them work, push themselves to their limits, and graduate. And to me, that is such a powerful thing, because how do you change the story? You have to change the storyteller. And to be able to empower children, the next generation, to tell their own stories, to me is something that's very powerful, it's very rewarding, and it's something that, and so that's like the Nat Geo answer. The real answer is, I don't want these little knuckleheads to kill me when I get old. So that's what I'm always teaching. So those are the two sides of me. Like, I want you to remember, Mr. George showed you this, all right? So like, you see me like hobbling along, I'm like, oh, that's Mr. George, he's cool. You know, like, he got me into this. So that's my takeaway.
All right.
I'm Keegan. I go to Penn State here. And was there like an animal you would say is the most difficult to try and like get a good picture of?
Yes, so that picture that you saw in the beginning of the slideshow of the Florida Panther took me 394 days and about 26 minutes and 30 seconds to get. So if that gives you any clue of how long it took me to get that one photo, that was the hardest photo I've ever had to get.
Patrice from Beaver County, recently relocated back, so great to see speakers coming to our region. My question is, I see through the models to the bears to even the tree there, this long symmetry in your photos. Typically with animals, you'll see, curled up in the golden ratio type, and it's pretty striking, your lengthening of your photos. If you have any insight does that come to you naturally? Do you try and, is that what you're known for? I haven't had a chance to explore your back catalog.
For me, so we did a photo walk earlier, and one of the things I advised some of the participants on is I approach everything with a white belt mentality. So I don't know anything, and I definitely submit to asking people for help. And my mentors are world-renowned photographers who I could never afford to pay for their classes. So I'm the guy that's like, yo, I'll assist. If it means I can learn from you, understand your train of thought, and also earn some money at the same time. So that's how I kind of developed my style, is by looking at the masters and choosing to follow in the path of someone who has more knowledge and expertise than me to style my photos and make sure that they're composed the right way. Trust me, there's a whole bunch of terrible photos that you have never seen and will never see, where I just mess up constantly. So what you saw is like the highlights of the highlights.
George, how many photos do you think you have to take that aren't very good to get one that you're willing to put on a slideshow?
About 2,500. Yeah, somebody has to go through all of that. That person is here.
That's humbling, but it also makes me feel a little bit better about what I did in the office today.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm from Hopewell. And I have two questions. The first one's a quick one. The girl you met in the club the night you decided that you wanted to be a photographer, did you end up falling in love with her?
For that summer, yes.
Okay, thank you. The second question, when you were showing the pictures of the rats, it made me think how anytime I've ever encountered a rat or two or more, I've been terrified and just running and getting away from them. But looking at your pictures and hearing you tell about them, I was almost feeling kind of like respect for them and sympathy for what they have to go through. And I just wondered, is there any particular animal or anything that you've ever photographed that has really, in the process of photographing them and studying them, has really changed the way you felt about them?
Yes, it would be the pigeon, and it literally, there's a reason I have a pigeon tattooed on my shoulder, and it just blew my perception, and it challenged the way that I viewed my environment. Growing up in New York City, it's what we have access to. If you grew up in any urban environment, you're gonna see pigeons, you're gonna see rats, and you're gonna see roaches. So for a lot of my career, early career, I specialized in what I had access to. So unfortunately, I can walk into a restaurant and make a U-turn because I smell the rats. I don't have to know that they have a rat problem. I can just smell it and be like, I'm not eating here, and make a U-turn. And something that most people don't consider with rats is that they can chew through anything minus the steel they use to make submarines. And most of you don't know how much money your favorite airline spends on rat mitigation. Because a rat bites a wire at 35,000 feet, we're in big problems. So, yeah, like I said, my knowledge base is as wide as the Amazon River and as deep as a 1-inch sheet of ice. You know, I know a lot about rats, pigeons, now mosquitoes, now bears, and stuff like that.
Yes, Carrie.
Thank you. I'm Carrie. I live in Aliquippa. Love Nat Geo. Love National Geographic. What does working as a photographer for National Geographic look like? Like, do they call you up and say, hey, we're doing the story on the Arctic, you want to go? Or do you call them and say, hey, I'm taking pictures of Florida Panthers, want to write a story? Like, how does that work?
I have an editor that I would call that I want to pitch stories to, and I'll send her my proof of concept. And if she feels no emotion behind it, she will say, I'm getting my hair done, please don't interrupt me with this stuff. And it's true though. It's very humbling because there's somebody who could care less about the ideas that you have, and they want a more robust story and a byline that can be impactful and is worthy of printing or producing and them paying for it. So a lot of it is me dealing with rejection and getting comfortable with, I think, George, you're insane. Go back and do that. And when they do have a story for you, they're gonna sell it to you like a box of dreams. And then you're stuck there trying to figure it out because, you know, this person who told you the photos you just sent her that you spent days creating said there's no emotion there. But I have this story that I'm positive that you can do, and you're the best person to do it. So it's like being a child all over again, right? It's like your parent dangling this thing in front of you, like, hey, I will love you if you can get this done. So it's kind of sadistic.
Other questions? Yeah. In this general zone, are there any other questions?
Yeah, you guys have Daniel getting his steps in.
That's
together,
right, man. There
you go. Hi, my name's Jason. Thanks for talking tonight. So, in my career, I've struggled to find the balance between doing creative work for other people and for money, and losing the joy of doing that in the process. Do you have any tips for people early in their career to help them find a way through that loss of joy when they know there's some on the other side of that fear? Do you have any tips?
Jason, this is what I'll tell you, brother. Do the things that you enjoy doing for you and keep those personal, and the creative stuff that they hire you for, do that and give that to them, because it's never gonna be this mix where you always find the joy in it. You're gonna be like, really, this is what you guys want me to do? Like this? All right, say less, I'll take the check and do it. You know, and take that time when you're not doing that to invest into your creative process in the things that you enjoy because you matter. You know, without you showing up and being able to execute and show up prepared and ready to work, if you show up miserable, you're not of value to yourself, your team, or the project you're working on. So that would be my best advice, is to be able to have your personal projects that you work on and you produce and you're proud of. And then, like, nobody here is supposed to like work, right? You just go to work and just, you know, it's work, and you just do it and get out. So that would be my recommendation for you. And you got this, bro. Like, yeah, you're doing it.
That's good advice. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be back. I'm going to go see Chris for a second.
Chris Padgett. I live in Aliquippa. I have two questions. One, with the different travels you've had and the different things you've photographed, I wonder if you could share like some moments that stick out in your head that you didn't photograph, whether it was like something in South Africa, like a sunset, or what sticks out to you as you think about them. And the other question is there a project that you feel passionate about that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
So, firstly, one of my mentors, he is from Pittsburgh. He lives down in South Carolina now. His name is Vincent J. Musey. And the very first time I got a critique from him, he told me that I could possibly be the best sunrise, sunset photographer. And I love making sunrise, sunset pictures. And once he told me that, and that was in 2019, last week was the first time I took a sunrise picture after that. So if that gives you some context, I definitely took it to heart and worked at being a better photographer and using my skills better than doing sunrise and sunset. And the second question you asked, my desire is to spend about 2 months with the Masai Mara, on the Masai Mara with the Masai. They're the guys that walk and move their cattle around lions. And it's something that, it's mythical to me, right? Because I've been there, and that lion definitely showed me my place in the pecking order, and these guys literally walk amongst them. So it would be my goal to be able to have that experience and document that experience and bring it back to this country to show how these people live and interact with such a powerful beast that it's really hard to explain verbally unless you have like the images to back it up. So that would be my thing.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm from Portland, Oregon, but I live now in Beaver Falls. My main question is, as a photographer for National Geographic, what's a day in the life? You know, you're in Africa, you know, you're in Paris, you're wherever you're in Florida. What's a day in the life of just what you do?
A day in my life begins with me going to bed at 9:15 p.m. every night religiously, waking up at 4:30 because, contrary to popular belief, I'm more of an ambivert. So I don't like too many people, especially when I'm going to the gym. And I like to, because I live in a small town now, I call it Mayberry because it has 4 red lights. Right? So to go from New York City Brooklyn that has like 4 million people, to living in a place that has 2,500 people, My life is very rigid when it comes to my processes. I take my work very seriously, and I have OCD when it comes to perfection because I'm always chasing it, even though I know logically it's impossible to achieve. But it doesn't stop me from chasing it. If I don't get enough sleep, I am such a terrible SOB. None of you would like to be around me. And I don't own a TV anymore. I literally read or go to the YouTube University and work at getting my skills better and refining my skills. So I live a very regimented life. I don't go out, I don't party. I've been out, I've done that, and all I want to do is just be better every day because future George depends on me showing up today. He will never show up if I don't show up today. So that's like a day in my life, and I'm always looking to pitch stories, and it's like this. If somebody told you you are 24 no's away from living your wildest dreams, you'd go and knock on 24 doors just to hear a no. That's the kind of approach that I take to my life and trying to succeed. I want to hear no so that I can move on and be better. So it sounds kind of convoluted, but it's a super rigid kind of like living my life thing. I have a girlfriend who understands that this is what I want to do, so she supports me. I think the biggest fight we've had to date is the fact that we just got a new German Shepherd, and I'm calling her from Africa, and she's like, oh yeah, I let the dog sleep in the bed. I'm like, what the heck, dude? I'm gonna burn that bed if that dog keeps on sleeping in it. So I live a very regimented life, and it's good for me because I need that structure. I hope that answers your question.
I was more thinking like you're in the field, like you wake up in the morning to do a shoot or something.
Oh.
Like something like that. Like what does that look like? Because what I think of is you're just there all the time, just sitting there.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that photo of me at night in the Everglades? So I don't handle the sun really well. I tend to like burn. So I always get into the field at 7:05 a.m. I'm in the field. Usually my field locations are about an hour, 2 hours away from me. So I'm driving as soon as I can get out the gym. I'm on it and driving there. At 7 a.m., most of the animals, they're kind of gone to bed they've gone to bed for the day. They're not moving around. So a lot of the stuff that I do is very early in the morning. By 11 a.m., George is on his way home. I am not trying to be out there between 12 and 7 p.m. It's just too hot, too many mosquitoes, and I'm just not doing it, bro. You know, like, that's my thing. I'll get up early and go and do what I have to do, but I'm not trying to spend all my time outdoors. My girlfriend says that I only go outside unless I get paid to, and she's right.
I left my phone up front, so I don't have any idea what time it is. But somebody give me a time check real quick. Okay. Maybe you have time for one or two more questions.
Hi, thanks so much for coming. I'm Andrea. I live in Vanport. What was who I should say, was the favorite person that you've ever photographed and why?
I'm sorry, you said who was the A-list person?
your favorite person ever.
Oh, my favorite person?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I got dragged into the bathroom by Mariah Carey once. And that, never forget that moment. She had to do anatomy adjustment, and she wouldn't let me take her picture until she got that done. And she told me to come into the bathroom while she took care of that, and I was like, how could life be better than this? So, yeah, Mariah Carey, never forget that.
You're a mystery, George. All right.
Hey, there's somebody back there, and there's these guys back up front.
Yes.
Though I hate to follow that question, I wanted to know, my name's Maria, I'm from Aliquippa, and I wanted to know what you thought was the most impactful picture you've taken, and in what way was it impactful?
That's a good one. The most impactful picture for me that I've ever made was my first time seeing a gray whale. And a lot of the things that I've been able to see and experience before actually living them, I was only able to see it on TV. And the first gray whale I ever saw was off the central coast of California. I was kind of just bobbing along. Mind you, I don't know how to swim. Life jacket on, and then that sucker pops up, and you realize how big they are. It might not have been impactful to anyone else other than me to this day. I'm okay not going into certain parts of the ocean. Yeah, it's like, that's just not for me. Whatever's down there is down there, and that's for them. George doesn't do deep ocean. So that was my most impactful photo, and that was the one that to this day, every time I look at it, I get the butterflies and my feet start tingling. It's just like a scary thing because as human beings, for me at least, you always think of yourself in this pecking order. And then when you get out into nature and the real pecking order is kind of decided, you swallow deep and hold on to everything you have, and you respect it, and you ask the captain to take you back.
Is there another question? Yeah.
Me again, I'm Dean.
Yeah,
so that picture of you on your hands and knees in the rain jacket,
Yeah.
is that testing the camera trap?
Yeah, that's testing the camera trap. So if you get a chance, if you have Disney Plus, look up Path of the Panther, and you'll see a panther walk that same place where I was testing. And it's the reason I've never watched that movie is because I spent 2.5 years of my life filming it that I just can't bring myself to watch it because I know how every scene plays out, right? So it's this proud moment of having been able to accomplish that. However, I could just never watch it because I know how it ends. It's like watching the Titanic. Like, the boat's gonna sink, somebody's gonna die, that whole thing.
I'm sure all those little imperfections kind of stick out to you.
Oh, I would defer to these gentlemen. You never forget your imperfections. It lives with you. Walk around with it like a scar. You're always like, I could have done that better. That could have been changed. I wish I had gotten this. So it's very triggering to me. So I just don't watch it.
Right. And then as someone who's very familiar with cameras and just general electronics, do not like the elements, could you explain a time where there were harsh technical difficulties and maybe you lost a lot of time because of that?
Oh, dude, that's like half the process with camera trapping. It's like hurry up and fail. Like the batteries run out, you forgot to put the memory card in, your site's like 2 hours away, and you only remember when you get home. You're like, why? And you have no one else to blame, right? Because you didn't follow your checklist, you didn't keep your protocol, so you have to turn back, go back, and get it done. Right? There's this saying that no one's coming to save you, and it's not that people will never show up for you or support you. However, you're responsible for your life. No one else does. Yeah, so it always happens, dude. I fail so many times. You have no clue. The best way for me to equate it to you is, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
25.
Okay. Between you being born and you learning to walk, you fell over 4,500 times. But you just don't think about it because you've been walking for so long, right? So we all fail. It's just a matter of like having perspective for the goal that you're trying to chase. That's it, bro.
Thank you, again.
I fail all the time.
All right, maybe we'll take one last question.
Hi, Stacy. I've lived in a few different places in Beaver County and currently in Beaver. Thanks for being here and all the great questions, all of you. Thank you. I was wondering if there's something in particular you're looking forward to in the Everglades.
Oh, man. All right, this might sound kind of cruel and wild, but the Florida black bear loves to eat gator eggs, and I'm hoping to document that on camera, and like that would be kind of my coup de grace, is to be able to get that on camera of a black bear, because you'll see the gator run away. The bears will go and toss their nest, eat all their eggs, and then like the gator comes back crying. So I'm kind of weird like that. I want to see something wild like that. Yeah, but that would be my thing, to be able to see. If I can get that, I feel like that point I'll be, all right, cool. I've had enough fun in Florida. But thank you all so much. I sincerely appreciate you guys spending your Wednesday night with me. It was a pleasure, and my biggest takeaway from this trip is being able to spend time. You amazing people. You are all my proxy for the city of Pittsburgh. So thank you so much. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Well, let me just say, George, thank you. Thank you for the gift of your photos. Thank you for the gift of your stories, for your humor, your candor. These are the kinds of things we aspire to create more of in our communities, and they don't just happen, right? We need to bring them to life. All that you shared with us in its own right is worthy of conversation and its own kind of gift. And also, we are in the business here of building better communities and using ideas and conversation to do that. So I often have just a couple quick reflections at the end of what we've heard, and I thought maybe I'd just briefly offer them here. One thing that struck me, and I asked the question, so maybe this is why, but 2,500 failures to one success. We live in a series of communities who has done a fair share of failing for all kinds of reasons, many of which are not of our own making. George tells us a story tonight about slogging on and allowing that failure to be a pretense for future success. I think that's a great lesson for us to take away from this conversation here tonight. We need to be bold enough to fail repeatedly in order to get to the other side of that. So that's lesson maybe number one. I think the second lesson for me tonight was really hearing, and this wasn't just this evening, this was the last couple of days and even the last few months, hearing the value of a vision and a direction in George's life. He tells a very fascinating and impactful story about one trajectory that he was on that shifted to another kind of trajectory. And at the center of that shift was an opportunity to be creative, an opportunity to see something different in his world, an opportunity to show that difference to others around him, and really to build a life story around creativity and shifting a narrative about the world around him. We all, in different ways, have that opportunity here together in Beaver County. How can we come together and continue to grow increasingly robust visions for the use of creativity to transform our communities? George, you have encouraged, motivated, provoked, challenged, I think, all of us to think about those kinds of questions. We might not all become National Geographic photographers, but I would submit to you that we have equally important projects that we all need to be doing here in our backyard. And so I hope that tonight is a reminder of that. And George, I just thank you for helping to share that. One other fascinating observation for me, and I don't know that there's any deep reflection here, but this is the 7th, the current that we've had. Tremendously different crowd here tonight than we've ever had before. I want to reflect on that. I want to reflect on what it is that connected with and resonated with folks from Pittsburgh and Australia and Oregon and Utah, and something about what George came to talk with us about resonated in a very interesting way within our community. And I think, man, I'd love to learn more from all of you about what that was, what platforming George brought out in each of you, and how we can do more of that sort of thing and continue to grow a wider, deeper, more connected set of communities and conversations here in Beaver County. My last thing is just to say once again and always thank you to Penn State Beaver. They are leading the way here in Beaver County, connecting ideas, thinking, the academy to the concerns of healthy communities right here in our backyard. So certainly thanks to Carrie McDougall and her continued support of this. Stephanie, thank you for being here tonight and helping kick things off, and the staff and technical folks as well. There is way more cheese and cookies than I want to take home out the door, so please avail yourself to that. We also have a flyer. If any of you have high school students in your life, Riverwise this summer will be running Summer Sustainability Institute in its 4th year. There will be a creative component at the heart of that project. This is intended for high school students in Beaver County who want to understand more about a lot of the issues that George talked about sustainability, about healthy community formation, and students who successfully complete the 6-week program get a stipend. I think is it $250? Can anybody confirm that out there on our team? I think that's right. It's somewhere between $250 and $3 million. So get them to sign up. We have a flyer out at the table. We would love to see young ones continue this conversation alongside of us. So one last round of applause for George. If you want to watch any of the last episodes of The Current, go to Riverwise YouTube channel. They've all been documented. You can go back and see some of those from months gone by. Thank you for being here. Eat some cheese. Have a safe trip home, all right?